So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Chinese seem to be finally in favor of workers' rights, which is what we're seeing today. It's pretty interesting. And it's not an area that I know a whole lot about, but I wanted to read and look over this article for you. It's called "The Chinese Antitrust Authority Regulates No Poach Agreement for the First Time." Link down below if you'd like to read it. Again, very interesting insight into the labor economics of China, what it looks like to be a worker in China. And so in July 2023, they have an antitrust authority, which is the State Administration for Market Regulation, which sounds like a fairly pro worker organization, but they seem to finally be cracking down and being pro worker. So there are four leading pig breeding enterprises in China called Muyuan Food, Win's Foodstuff Group, the Twins Group, and Chiat Dai Investment. Apologies if I butchered Muyuan. But back in June of 2023, they signed a no poach pact, which, I mean, they were blatantly signing up and saying, hey, we're not going to steal each other's employees. And it's a typical monopoly agreement in the HR field with wage fixing. So what normally happens is these four groups get together and say how much they're going to pay for employees and then agree to it, and this creates again a consensus among the employers. It didn't. No one got actually fined for this agreement. That was quite public and quite well known. But there was a yellow card that has implications and that they have to take seriously. It's not actually illegal to have no poach laws in the China. A lot of times they apply the anti-monopoly law to regulate the agreements, but it's been a blind spot in law enforcement and not fully recognized. I I think that in many circumstances, in many cases, actually there are these monopolies, for example, in Europe. So there are situations with respect to the labor unions that regularize and create all-encompassing pay structures for all enterprises. However, that's done from the power of the union and the power of the workers and not from the power of the employers. There are pretty hefty fines on the anti-monopoly. It could be 1 to 10% of the violators turnover, which I want to just shout out right here that the idea of a percentage as a fine rather than a specific number, I think is pretty good. I mean, I suppose there should be some sort of floor, but ultimately it's a different world when you have a big company that gets fined a very small amount compared to, or in reference to their size, compared to a very small company that gets fined quite a bit. If you can also have personal liabilities that may be fined up to 1 million yuan, which I think that that is more of a important move for Americans is to have personal liability for specific decisions like this. I think the more we can increase personal liability with respect to business decisions, the better off we're going to be. It's very interesting because it seems as if these pacts and agreements across businesses have been pretty widespread throughout China. And the idea that it's an accepted expression, an accepted method is kind of very interesting. It's not similar to the United States. If there were agreements in place, I'm not aware of them. I've never seen them. Leave a comment down below if you have seen one, but I haven't seen agreements across the board like that. And I think that, obviously that's anti-competitive. It probably violates the antitrust, many antitrust acts. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't play one on TV, so I could be wrong here, but I get the impression that you could not do that because of the hyper competitive nature of the United States. Even if you agreed with someone to, sort of collude, I don't really think that you would get far because I believe that people would continue to compete. I would hope people would continue to compete, and antitrust agreements would not be, or antitrust, monopolistic wage agreements would not be possible. But I am curious if that's happening currently in the United States. So, the recommendation is that, refrain from wage fixing because you can now get in a lot of trouble from the antitrust agencies in China, specifically in the human resources field. Now, antitrust still has a long history in or acting against trust still has a long history in China. So there is that enforcement, but not typically in the wage field. It seems like they're beginning to crack down, and that is an interesting change in an environment that, frankly, quite frequently seems to be anti worker. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.